For staying with us. This is on air is a health, and we continue with the conversation. We continue on men's get to 1 June, which is a month that is set aside to celebrate is Men's Awareness Month. With the conversation round, we took up a bit and found some of the healthy strategies, stress management, and for anxiety in men. For this conversation on my far, Muthoni Otieno. Muthoni Otieno is a counseling psychologist. Welcome to the. All right. Muthoni, we have is an inspiration life CEO about that Edulite International. I feel it's to be hard over and over again, so that we house men and up or out, you know. And I would love to be feel that more harm the gentleman. And up, we hear it, so something happens, you know, boys that, so is more harm than good?
The term harm than good is very catastrophic. Since the genesis of times, men man up, they should be stoic, strong, should be, when a man should not cry, and the soft in trying to seek for help. You say no, a man should, it's being soft. Men have keeping to themselves. Those emotions filling up, and when it is, I even lack better adjectives to describe what comes. We believe that it's give a new a man really means be a man. Can now start on how out of suffering. Me, Vivian, there are very many. There
said just before Tony, what it means. We need to and know exactly what it means to be a man in this society right now. If you may get into that, you know, just what does it mean to be a man?
Society describes a man in different ways. Some people say that if you're a man, you need to be polygamous. You need to have so many women. Others will say that if you're a real man, you need to sleep with many women. Others will say that when you're a real man, you need to build big muscles. Others will say that you be a big man, you need to have beards. Others will tell you that, you know, stop getting into the world of feministic hypnosis, where you are behaving in a given manner which makes you suffer from prolonged infancy. I mean, you're a boy, but suffering from prolonged infancy because every time you're crying, you need help here and there, you know. Now, this is the exact definition of manhood in the current society, which we need to change, and we need to tell people that it is okay to speak out. It is okay to cry. It is okay to weep. It is okay to reach out to friends and seek for help. Now, once we start having those discussions, then we'll change the definition of a man, because we are created differently. Anytime you start listening to society, you lose yourself. And once you lose yourself, you lose your track. So you start now living your life based on how people see you, or based on how people define how to be a man. Yeah.
All right. Over to you, Muthoni. Just, you know, the same question on manning up. What do you feel that has done to the men in our society now? That manning up, that just toughening it out expectation.
What manning up means to me, and maybe to the society, is where we've taken the notion and we simply imply that men should not have emotions. They should appear to be strong. They should also endure, you know, pain without really seeking help. But that's not the case. It's a notion that has been passed over, and we really pass this over very simple, conscious, unconscious statements. When you tell, let's say, a boy who's hurt, maybe something has hurt him, and we are quick to say, stop crying, you're a boy. But those are things that sticks in the mind of that little boy, and by the time they're growing up to become an adult, those are things we have over time built as belief system in their own selves. So they believe, even when they're growing up, they believe a man shouldn't cry, a man should not ask for help, because asking for help looks like you're weak, but that's not the narrative. But I love this conversation because it's today we are talking about challenging that narrative and saying this is not the culture. We are now bringing in the culture of men also have emotions, and they need to name them. They need to feel the emotion. They need to express them, and it is okay not to be okay. Yes.
How do we then demystify all of that? You know, having in mind that this is something that has been passed down generations upon generations upon generations, right? So how are we able to just demystify all this? How do we go about that? Maybe if I may start with you.
Okay, it starts. I say the bigger thing we say, it starts with us ourselves. As the people who are friends to these men, we are spouses, we are colleagues, we are brothers, we are sisters, we are, I mean, whatever we are to these men. What do we tell them, or how do we receive when they say, maybe they're expressing their emotion? Do we judge them, or do we welcome and do we offer that safe space where they can tell us, hey, I'm not okay? Do we offer that safe space where someone will not feel judged because I spoke to Vivian and the lash I got, man, or the support I got, I really felt like I was listened to, I was heard. So it's something that starts with us, even from our homes, from our communities, from our places of work, from, I mean, wherever you are, it's something that you can start. And it doesn't matter how small act, whatever small act you do, it is what little are you doing to change this narrative, and we can begin from there.
And you know, just challenging or changing perspectives sometimes can be really hard, especially things that have been there, you know. It's the norm with the society, it's culture, they say that's our culture and whatnot, so it can be really hard to change such perspectives. So from your point of view, just how are we able to just change that?
First of all, we must start by fighting the stigma. Because the stigma is still there. We must start fighting the stigma and giving real definitions of what it really means to be a man, and that it's okay for a man to cry, and it's okay not to be okay, just as my colleague said. And then secondly, we must also encourage real connections. We are living in a world where most people have plastic smiles. They come to you, they give you a kiss on the lips, but push a dagger in your heart. And most men are a victim of that, where you go to somebody, you express yourself, you tell them that which bedevils you, and then they listen to you. And then they go elsewhere and they speak it out. Naturally, most men don't like that. So this makes the man now to keep quiet and also to keep things to himself. So we need to encourage men also to take their time to earmark real friends, people you can't share your fears with, people you can share your plans with, people you can share your tears with, so that these people now, they can help you overload the emotions, get out the emotions that are overwhelming your body. That notwithstanding, we did plea also to our female folk also to love us so deeply, to love us so genuinely, and to show us affection. For instance, if you are a wife and your husband, you realize that there's something that's not normal with him, stop judging the man. Take your time to understand this man. Hold him, bring him closer and rest his head upon your chest. Tell him that it's okay. You know, tomorrow will brighten up. That don't cry, my man. If you cry, your tears will stop you from seeing the stars in the morning. I still believe in you. That kind of emotional encouragement will now make that man come out of that kind of zone and also push forward to reach the zenith of success. Notwithstanding, we should also talk about building health habits. You know, how do we live? What do we do? They normally say, if you wake up in the morning with determination, you will actually go back to bed with satisfaction. Waking up very early in the morning, working out your schedules, going out and exercising, you know, having time with your Creator, praying to God, you know, having a schedule, taking some fruits in the morning and such like things. It sets the momentum for the day, and that will help you run your day in a seamless manner, and it will, you know, it will keep you off so many distractions from the outer world, which end up creating now anxiety and stress, depression, the topic that you are currently, you know, tackling.
Have you seen any changes maybe over the years in how men engage with therapy, specifically to you as a counseling psychologist? Have there been any changes in how they just interact with therapy?
We are slowly getting there. But one thing I'm really grateful for is we have started building up. I love the men who've taken up, like they do podcast and maybe shows or something to bring out the men mental health. Maybe just to mention, but a few men in this country, people who we think they have it all together, but they experience moments where they are low, they're going through stuff and phases of life, but they take on the courage to come and say, hey, I'm not okay, and they seek help. And once they open that door, and maybe they open the door through the podcast or maybe shows or whatever they do, they open a door for another man to see if so-and-so is going through something, and this is a person who we think maybe has it all in life, and they're able to speak it out and you know, share their life, their pain, their struggles and all that. It gives way for these other people, other men to come and share their lives, or even get to learn and see how do we get help, how do we seek for help. And one thing that is really changing, I get to see from my practice, my private and also where I work in as a counselor, because I work with an organization that deals with supporting families psychologically and just wellness. I get to have couples who come in. I get to have children, because we work with families. It's a whole setup. We have families that are single. We have families that are, you know, it's both parents are there, but they're also raising children who are also boys. And some of the things we've put into practice in those sessions is to ensure that we let the men know that it is okay. Just as women are looking for help and are seeking for help, we open and create that safe space for these men to come in and seek help. And it's something that is growing, and that's the narrative we need to keep on building every day, so that, I mean, our men can find help, because it's truly there. It's truly there. Yes.
Maybe you allow me add something on top of that.
Go ahead.
We must also be very careful with social media. Social media realms are also filled with people who are advancing toxic masculinity. because anybody can use social media, anybody can start a podcast. So there are people who are giving definition of what it means to be a man based on their experiences. And sometimes when you give things based on your experience, you might be biased to favor yourself. So even when you're listening to these podcasts, listen and consume information that will build you, will help you untap your hidden potentials and become better version of yourself. But if you also decide to listen to podcasts that will mislead you, especially with information that touches on masculinity, remember you'll be filling your mind with filth. And one day, that will turn out to be your habit and character, and by the time you plow down the ditch, you'll get yourselves in a point of no return. That notwithstanding, on matters therapy, I have also worked with men in my lifetime as a life coach. I've also been in leadership positions, both nationally here and also internationally. So I have interacted with thousands and thousands of men. And one major observation I've made over time is that men still perceive therapy to be weakness. For instance, sometimes back, somebody told me that my son, I think, is getting into depression. I want you to talk to him. He went to university, finished university, got a first class, but right now he's just wasting away using drugs and substance. Please go and talk to him. So when I went to the guy simply told me that, I'm very much okay. I went to the university, I have a degree. So I'm okay. I mean, I'm not sick. How did you guys see me? So men should also understand that it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. So that we can now start embracing therapy. And conversations such like this are a step forward towards embracing such a society.
Yeah, and we cannot talk about wellness without mental wellness, because
Absolutely.
your mental wellness distinguishes your entire wellness as a
Absolutely.
human being. So there's that perception or notion that therapy is weakness, not just for men. I feel like it's somehow overall there's stigma around
it cuts
therapy,
across even for women.
Even for women.
Yes.
So I think that is something that should be demystified for sure. What are some effective habits to be able or to look out for, when you're going through stress? What are some effective habits that you can add on to your day-to-day that would help you cope with your stress and anxiety?
One of them is exercise. Exercise is very important because once you exercise, you reboot yourself. You reboot your mind and you'll go back to factory reset mode. Most people will see exercise just like any other practice. When I started to, at some point in time, when I ventured into the world of mentorships and when I started my company and became a CEO, and now I was overwhelmed with a lot of duties because I had to travel, I had to write, I had to go and teach, I had to do this and that. I realized that slowly I was losing myself. I was doing what was right, yes, but I was working with the definition of the world, what really success means. That you don't have to waste even a single time. Every time when I'm going to the bathroom, I'm listening to podcasts. When I'm cooking, I'm listening to podcasts. When I'm free, it's even funny that sometimes I'm in the washroom, but I have a book and I'm reading. And I said, okay, I'm not wasting time, and this is the real definition of success in the world. But I forgot that I have me to protect. I have me to listen to. And now in the process now, I started to change my habits. Of course, I read so many books which helped me later on, waking up in the morning, going to the gym. And then after the gym, I'm just walking back home. I'm just listening to myself, not even listening to podcasts. And that's one way in which I started now resetting myself. Another way we can do is, as I said, let's encourage real connections. And I really emphasize on this because most of us, we don't have friends. What we have is frenemies. Most people who are in our lives are there as parasites. Either they want to get something out of us and then they disappear, or they are here so that they can learn our ways, master our ways, and use that against us. And if such a thing happens, because it has happened to me several times, where somebody sees your stars and said, if I work with Kelvin, Kelvin will take me to this level. Kelvin will help me map the journey towards my destiny. Now, when it's my turn out to seek help from this person, they are not there to help you. And then you're left alone, and then that's when you realize that you are alone in a jungle. Look left, right, and center, there's nobody to help you. So real connections are very important. It's better to be alone than to have a frenemy in your life. Because a frenemy has the potential to crush you down, get you abyss, and you'll never wake up again. Perhaps my colleague also add something on that.
And actually, even you know, with what you've just mentioned on frenemies, there's someone I listened to who was trying to justify that men are loved for what they can provide, for what they bring to the table. They're not just loved, you know, compared to women and children are just loved, women are just loved. But for a man to be loved, it has to be, what are you providing? What are you bringing to the table? Is this also something that we may say has added on to, or it's among the stressors that men have to deal with in this generation? Perhaps as a man, I think I should come first on this. Go ahead.
This is a clarion call to the women folk. Please, treat men as humans. Men are not machines. A man can make mistakes, a man can fail. Sometimes as a man you can get to, you know, you can bring a lady home and you make her your wife, and probably you had a good job, and somewhere in between something happens and you lose your job. And then you hear your wife saying that he no longer provides. What type of man are you? Come on. Other men are busy working. You see, they've built houses, they've done this, and now that starts disturbing the man intrinsically. It starts affecting him slowly. And it affects him to a level where when it explodes, you will either become a victim of this explosion, or he will become a victim of his own explosion. So as the women folk should also take their time to master and understand their men. They must also learn what we call emotional vocabulary. How to talk to somebody. It's okay, I see you're overwhelmed, it will be okay. Men love being pampered. You know, make him feel like a king. And trust me, he will come out of that place unbogable. That's a plea, but not all women, of course. But I'm just saying to the few, because I've had so many men complain about that issue, time without number.
Okay. Modoni,
yes,
how do men present symptoms of stress, you know, or anxiety in clinical settings?
From what I've interacted with the men I've got to see in my practice, most of them will either indulge in behaviors that are not helping them in any way. They are ruining their lives. Others will report of aggression, like they're super aggressive. You know, naturally there's a way a man will be aggressive in nature, but there is that aggression that is really out of place. And at times you will even see others becoming workaholics. They are working, I mean, you will look for them
bury their heads in work.
But they're trying to hide their pain in the work. Yes, so it takes them, you know, great, how do I say, it takes them great, because they're not willing to come out and say what they're going through, so they bury their heads in work, or in maybe indulging in, maybe let's say alcohol, or just so that we may numb this pain for now, but it has way, the repercussions are way much bigger and much greater than, you know, what we're trying to numb. So they really do not focus on the what is causing this. this is happening, let's try and numb the pain as we try and figure out what will work. But when a man comes for therapy, I mean, we applaud that man because it has taken him strength and courage to come even for therapy and say, hey, I'm going through this, I need help. It's something that we really, and you walk with that person so that they're able to get enlightened and even to be given, like my colleague was saying here, so that they're able to have that emotional literacy of knowing that I am overwhelmed, this is how I feel, and I need help. Yes.
Yeah. And you know, still on that, just what does that ignoring or ignorance whereby you just do not want to accept that something is wrong, you know, as you've said, they look for all these outlets, you know, maybe it's in substance abuse, or you bury yourself in work, or you do whatever it is that you're doing, but you are just simply ignoring the fact that I am not okay. You know, not even speaking to someone within yourself, you have not accepted the fact that I am not okay. There's this thing that is disturbing me. There's this stress that I have. I feel anxiety because of this and that, but you don't want to accept it. What does that do? What dangers does that have?
It has really, the dangers are really high because that is how we, unfortunately, we lose our men to even addiction, because by the time someone indulges, let's say in alcohol or substance abuse, they start it casually. And then over time, it builds into a habit. Before we know it, it's already an addiction, all right? That's just for substance abuse or something. Let's go to something like, let's say work. Someone, you're now extending your work times. You no longer leave at 5, you want to leave at 8, it becomes, and that affects your sleep. And science also has proven about having enough sleep as a human being. Because once we sleep, our brain is able to like reconstruct or repair our brains naturally if we have enough sleep. But if you deprive yourself enough sleep, I mean through the habits that you're doing, you're even causing more danger to yourself health-wise and even mentally. Because the following day as you're waking up, you're so fatigued, you're not even able to make decisions that are even, you know, if let's say for example our friend here, he runs a company, he is the head, he needs to make decisions that are, you know, that will see this organization run. But what if he runs into, you know, he wants to overwork, he wears himself out, where will he get new ideas, new inspirations? Where does he get time to just rejuvenate and overcome that burnout? Yes.
Kevin, what would you say are some barriers that men face in maintaining healthy mechanisms towards dealing with their anxiety and their stress? Are there barriers that are just standing in between them getting to that point where they deal with their issues in a healthy way?
The number one barrier is social media. Social media is a major distraction, especially when it's used in a bad way. I have seen time with that number. People post stuff in social media, you know, showing their wealth, showing how they are living with their wives, their women. Somebody showing, you know, himself with the wife cooking at the kitchen and them living like this. And then you're there as a copycat. You want to master their ways and start living like them. You are there, you see how they are succeeding, and now you also want to succeed like them. You feel like you're failing. So what that will actually do to you is that you'll stop living your life and you'll start living their life. Anytime as a human, you stop focusing on your own race and you start focusing on somebody's race, you will end up getting lost in the forest of life.
Say comparison is a thief of joy.
Comparison. So that's one of the major issues. And what people must understand, that what you see in social media might not be really exactly what is happening in real situations.
Kwa ground.
Because when you're looking at social media, you can see people always smiling, you know, people are always joyful, people are always doing this and that, you know. If somebody's flaunting their car, they will either show you a Mercedes-Benz, a Prado, a V8, and so on and so forth. And you're like, oh, wow, I wish I had this. But Are you aware that they hire those cars to show them on social media so that they can get more followers? Are you aware that the beautiful ladies you saw them with, they were hired so that they can take pictures together? You know.
Yeah.
So men should know that life is bittersweet. It has got its ups, it has also got its downs.
Yeah.
So when you're down here, it is fine. Your time is coming to crest those greater heights and come back to where you are. And philosophers, books, sophists have proven from time immemorial that life will never be a walk in the park. Life is not a straight line. Life is not a bed of roses. William Shakespeare simply says that life is bitter, sweet. Once as men we understand that, we'll start focusing on our journeys and avoid those distractions. So this is one of the major things that is barring men from living the creed of whom they exactly should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So comparison is top of the list.
Is top of the list.
Yeah. And then I guess it's because a man is, you know, society perceives a man to be like they always got their things together. So that's why I guess maybe the comparison comes in, because I need to also look a certain way. I need to also be seen driving a certain kind of car. I need to be, you know, I feel like that is what is really ailing us.
And another thing society that has also done, I think it has been there, but still it's there, the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And it cuts across all cadres and stations of life. When you go to church, you realize that people have good cars. After church service, they always meet and talk together. They always have a lunch together. So you go there as a man and you're a visionary man and you go there with your wife and then it's lunch time and you want to go to eat. You realize those with cars, they have grouped together and they have a meal there, now they're going to eat together. But you now, because you came the way you are, you have to line up and get the githeri or the rice beans, and then the man inside is telling himself, now how do I want to sew a car like so and so, so that my wife will stop looking at this guy. Now that I don't have this car, perhaps I should stop going to this church. I change another church. You see, in a way, this man has started now getting into the ditch of depression, into the ditch of mental illness. And slowly, if that's not curbed in time, it now leads to levels where they will even stop going to church, they go indulge abuse, and so on and so forth.
Muthoni, what have you found more effective, you know, in helping men develop healthy habits in dealing with their stress?
Something I've really noticed with men is that there's a therapy a strategy that we use. It's called solution focused therapy. They're here not to really, maybe not to explore really maybe what they're going through, but to find a solution for their struggles.
Solution based.
Yes, they're solution based. They need, I mean, they need to focus on a certain thing, achieve what they want to achieve, unlike the other gender that, you know, they will want to express, you know, feel, move and all that. But it's something that it's also working in therapy. So understand the kind of gender you're dealing with. The men, and so for the men, solution, more than any other.
How do we generally create a safe space for men?
Everybody must start speaking. It is a pandemic. It does not affect you. It is very close. Your brother, your sibling, your son or your daughter. Let's normalize these discussions. Employers must play their role. Let them even have a mental health day within the institution. I'm a motivational speaker. So many schools. And sometimes you meet principals and they say that I'm a principal and I go through all this. But since I'm the principal and I'm the one who's providing solution, I don't have anybody I can cry to. I don't have anybody who can listen to me. I'm slowly dying. Yet, here I am working. So employers must also learn to, if it's TSC, let TSC also focus on the teachers. Talk about this mental health, have seminars with them and guide them through. If it's the principals, let them have these days with their teachers. Let's normalize this discussion. Let's help them access to therapy. Let them train managers on emotional intelligence, which is very key, especially for people who are in leadership echelons. That notwithstanding, let's also have healthy minds lead healthy teams. Because I've seen very many toxic bosses in offices who are actually the reason as to why their employees are almost committing suicide. One day I went to a university around and I went at an office of one professor, and the professor was a senior, actually was a dean in the office. And then he was looking at the newspaper for a very long time. And then later on he said that, what do you want? I told him, of course, I came to see you. I've been cleared by the secretary. And then all of a sudden, do you know what happened? All of a sudden, he called the secretary and told the secretary, you woman, you're very stupid. Didn't I tell you not to allow anybody to come here? Now you see such a thing, such a manager can easily make the employees go down to the ditch. That notwithstanding, the church must also play its role. We know that Jesus wept, we know that David cried, and we know that Paul confessed. So the gospel is emotional, and let the pulpit also be a reflection of that.
All right, we will leave it at that. We need to wind up. Thank you so very much for joining us for this conversation. It was really, really informative and thoughtful. Thank you.
All right.
Asante sana.
This is where we end this conversation, and this is also where we end Good Morning Kenya for today. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuning in. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.